Yvonne, how are you?
All right, how are you?
I'm good. Ooh, Kidwin season is in full swing, huh? How's it going?
Instant challenge committees all met this last week, so we're gonna get those going. Figure out what we're
Yeah,
doing.
like for Worlds? Awesome. Mike, you got a haircut. You look nice.
I did get a haircut, yeah.
Um, Mike, when you have time, I'd love to pick your brain. We're having some challenges on the solar side. So we talked about having a webinar for our coaches so they could ask some more questions and learn some things. And I'm happy to cover it, but I'm realizing that I don't know that I have the technical background to help any high school teams with the microcontroller and like storage stuff.
Meaning, are they having questions like how to do things or like about the rules, Remy?
Well, so far we've only had middle school teams, and they just like, well, you saw the emails. They can't get anything to work under the testing environment, but I think it's a lack of knowledge. They just don't understand that they need to put some more solar panels on their thing, and
Or they
connect.
need to, they really, the thing we're encouraging a lot of people, you got to get them closer to the lights. So you can't like, you got to like, there is a very big difference between being on the bottom and like getting like 5 inches from the lights and stuff like that too. And then and so I could be there, but I'll be honest. I would say that Yvonne has done an amazing amount of work, like doing the rubrics. So she understands
Awesome.
like the judging insanely. I don't know what to tell. Like, it's a all the bulbs in that thing are 50 watt halogens. If you just put a 50 watt halogen in a like a lamp, I can get everything to work in my space. So I don't really understand what the challenge is. Like, I'm not sure what is going on. But I've been telling teams, I had a few people call me and be like, hey, just try getting it closer to the lamp. Maybe you have too much. You're like, what are you trying to, I need to know a lot more like, what are you trying to load and all the like details. And then, does it work? Does it not? Troubleshoot that kind of stuff. But I'm happy to, if you like have a session, Remy, um, let me know. I'll be happy to try.
Awesome. Well,
Answer
I
questions.
might email you. I know Angela in Maryland was also kind of starting to freak out about like not knowing enough about the solar side of things. And I'm gonna go judge hers. So I mean, but it's that for me, my knowledge on the high school side of microcontrollers and storage, I just worry if the coaches have a lot of
Uh,
questions, I'm gonna be
yeah,
like,
That's our
me
realm of
too.
experimentation right now because like there's a lot of like Arduino information out there and programming information out there, but the application isn't
Right.
necessarily in
I
our hands.
mean, what we could do, Yvonne, and if we want to, and I don't want to hijack your meeting here, Remy. I'm
yeah, no,
sorry.
no,
I don't mean to do that.
no. And hello
Uh,
to people who are joining us. Sorry,
uh,
sorry.
but Yvonne, we could maybe bring Asia in as like a technical session and say, hey, Asia's very knowledgeable about microcontrollers, and she's been doing a lot of work on storage stuff. And she helped to frame some of that. And I think having you there, Yvonne, who have written the rubrics and know the rules really well. So if it's like, hey, it's a technical thing, do this. I think one thing we got to be careful of is like, we're not going to teach you all the things you need to know. You're going to have to go out and read a lot. And then maybe we can try to help you. But it's definitely like, you're in the Wild West a little bit, like just being honest about it. I
Well,
do
and
some.
look at the win side. I think in the last 3 years, I've seen maybe 5 teams total do something with Arduinos and programming,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and that's at
What
the
might be a good
national
idea?
level.
What might be a good idea, Yvonne, is to put together like a sheet of like how to use Arduino's basically, and or like microbits, like programming basics, and because there's a lot of good. The reason we didn't write a lot about that, there's a ton of like really high quality books and resources to do
And
that.
their tech ed teachers should be teaching them about that,
Right.
honestly. Right.
And
So,
I think the challenge is like, hey, I'm going to power my microcontroller with a solar panel. Ooh, you're entering a very
ooh.
scary space because it's not simple. So like, that's just the thing and I think, or you're using your solar panels to charge something that will then power your Arduino.
Mhm.
Get ready. You're going to be spending a lot of hours figuring that out.
And on the practice runs using different lamps, if they don't happen to actually have a 50-watt halogen, they might not understand that 50-watt halogen light is putting out different light than a 50-watt incandescent light. So that's where I think we need to look at what the lumens are for the bulb, so we can be like, hey, this is what you need to look for on your box to have an idea of something that's going to be close.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Well, and the thing is too that high school does require a little bit, of smart home, I think, but we have given them this sort of the out to say you could use a battery to power your microcontroller and use it in the system, right? So there's like, once again, do the simple thing to get a score, and then if you feel motivated, go do the hard thing, I guess.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
Learning.
Well, we'll give it a couple more minutes, but I mean, with only a couple of folks, we'll see. Will be potentially a short call. So today, I have asked John Miles to talk with us a little bit about a course that he had developed with a colleague of his, and they won one of our Outstanding Educator Awards because of this course. So I thought it would be interesting if other faculty members on the call would be interested in learning more about the course, and then we'll, do our around the room. And if there's only 5 people in the room, it'll be a quick around the room. So, excuse me. But it's good to see everyone. And Yuan, it's good to see you. And I'm sorry, our boy, I don't know that I recognize you. Would you like to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Doug Hoy. I'm from Lincoln Land Community College.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so I'm
Nice
new
to
to
meet
this.
you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. So yeah, I'm new to all this, so I'm just catching up.
Awesome. Well, it's great that you're here because one of the things that there's a couple of announcements that I can just kind of talk about real quickly on the Repowering Schools side of things. Yuan, you're familiar. We have our newest seed funding. We did get another round of seed funding for 2025. So that's exciting. And we took a lot of feedback from the past seed funding rounds. And as much as, it's from the Wind Technologies Office, so it's wind focused. But we did convince them to give us or to let us give out larger awards. So we're giving out fewer of them, but they're going to be larger. So our new seed funds are $10,000. You'll get some of it up front, and you'll get the rest of it when you fill out your impact report, because we're having a hard time of people telling us what they're doing. And then those who participate in the seed funding, we will encourage you and your students to then come to one of our conference experiences, whichever one times out with when your research project is over. And we have the funds from NREL to support those students to go to those conferences. So that's nice. It's not necessarily part of your grant. It's just kind of like the part where you get to share it out, but it's paid for. So that's nice. And we don't have any solar funds as of yet, but I'm hoping that some of our sponsors, our corporate sponsors, will come through with dollars so that we can continue the solar side of things. But the other thing I wanted to let you all know about, and this, Doug, is probably more on your side of things, is that we have partnered with the American Solar Energy Society. They have their solar conference annually, and this year is in Boulder at the University of Colorado, Boulder, August 4th through the 6th. And we are going to be hosting our very first student symposium focused on solar projects. So Doug, you're actually our very first solar seed funding that we were able to get out thanks to our wonderful corporate sponsors. But we were able to give out 4 more after yours. So we have 5 solar funded projects, and then we'll open it up to like local UC folks or anybody else who wants to come and share a solar project. But we only have enough to like host like 10 students, I think, right now with scholarships to get in the conference free and then hotel accommodations. So I was going to reach out to you anyway and kind of put the bug in your ear to start thinking if you have students that will have results from projects that they would like to share. The cool thing about the ACEs is that there will be potentially a poster session. I think that's a pretty easy sell. We've asked for the possibility of oral presentations from the students. I'm not sure if they're going to buy that one, but they are doing something called the Solar Village on the last day, which is basically like a demonstration area. So if your kids, like you guys did solar suitcases, right? So if they
Sorry about
have,
that.
no,
Yes, we did. That being said, we haven't done the PO yet because I think this grant runs out in September.
oh, you can have as much time as you need.
Okay, because through that Make It Solar or whatever, their kits, I guess they're changing over.
Yes, they are.
So I guess I'm in a weird period to where they're not available until September.
Oh, well,
I
no
haven't even,
worries. You can, just drop me an email and let me know, that the end of your project date has gone longer. That's mainly has nothing to do with the funds. The funds are already at your university. You can use them whenever you want. That's mainly
okay.
to keep me from bothering you about a post research impact survey before you're done. So,
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, they're not even ordered yet because I was trying to figure out, do I need to look somewhere else or how to go about it? But okay.
awesome. So those are the main updates on our end. Our nominations for Renewable Energy Education Awards are still open. We have nominees in most categories, but the only one that we don't really have any nominees in is our repowered schools, which is actually recognizing schools themselves, not the students or the educators, but schools that have demonstration projects that are doing really cool things in the classroom, integrating those technologies into their curriculum. So John Miles, I know you have a demonstration facility that I'm literally sitting in right now that would qualify you for a nomination for
I mean, I thought that was
JMU.
a green screen behind you, no? That's real?
This is real. So anyway, so if you won, did you guys win that one last year? Is that right?
We won that one last year for our school. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so there you
Yeah,
go. So he
it's
could tell
very
you all
exciting.
about
Yeah,
how.
yeah.
Um, but I will, when I send our follow-up email, I'll put links to like the seed funding and when I think the application is already open for the solar conference, and all of those links I'll put into the follow-up email. So with that, John, we only have, a couple of folks here on the call, but if you want to take a couple minutes and just kind of talk a little
Yeah,
bit about this cool course that you have, and then we can see if there's a discussion to be had.
sure. Yeah, and I'll give kind of a quick overview for those of you on the call I haven't met before or aren't acquainted with our program. I teach in a program at JMU, which is kind of unique. It's called Integrated Science and Technology, or ISAT. It's a applied interdisciplinary program with a common first 2-year curriculum that introduces students to the fundamentals of the sciences, biology, chemistry, physics, a little bit of health, some regulatory policy. And then as the students progress into the junior year, they start to get more exposure to specific areas that interest them. Energy is one of about a half dozen. And then as seniors, they are required to declare a concentration, or they can tailor a concentration and take courses in energy or maybe environment or our manufacturing senior level courses, et cetera. And so I've taught predominantly in energy for a number of years. About 10 years ago, we were going through a curriculum renewal process, and we established what we call our spine of the curriculum. And the idea is that all of our students would take a sequence of courses from the first year through the last year that would expose them to sort of a more holistic, systems-oriented view of complex problems. So in the first year, in the freshman year, they take our ISAT 190 called The Nature of Complex Problems, and an introduction to how our curriculum functions and exposes them to why we think that understanding the complexity of problems is important. In the second year, in our 290 course, they're introduced more formally to systems thinking approaches, more of a holistic approach to analyzing complex problems, looking at how the interconnected parts behave and impact each other and interact and so on. And then into the third year, and that's the course I'll talk a little bit about here, our course sequence, our ISAT 390, 391. Those courses are called Holistic Problem Solving Workshop 1 and 2. It's a 6-credit sequence, 3 in the fall, 3 in the spring. And the idea of this course is to introduce them to systems dynamics, which is a method for studying and modeling how systems change over time. They understand by that point that systems in the real world tend to be complex, tend to be very interconnected, involving lots of variables. And if you're in, by this time, it's March and we're 3/4 through the year, the students are now modeling. They're using industry grade software to create models of complex systems that capture both the technical aspects of systems as well as more the human induced impacts on systems. And I'm going to get to kind of what our end game is here in all this, and I'll even show you a little bit of a I'll show you some pieces from a presentation that one of our groups gave last year. By the way, this is very informal. I can't see you because I'm kind of moving around some windows here, and I'm going to share some screens in a moment, but I will feel free to just speak out, blurt it out if I can't see you, and I can stop and explain a little bit more about what we do. So in any event, 390, 391, holistic problem solving. The students come into this course in the fall, we hope prepared to really dive deeply into a particular topic. We teach this course every year in 2 flavors, and they can choose which one. That is, the course is about problem solving and systems modeling and analysis, but it's in the context of what we think is important topic. And we've taught these courses in the context of climate change, of transportation. We very quickly rolled out a version that addressed COVID at that time. We've done it in food sciences. We've got one coming up next year that's going to get into water systems in nature. And 4 years ago, when our governor passed the Virginia Clean Economy Act that set a very direct pathway to 2050 of decarbonizing all of our power generation, my colleague Rod McDonald, who is a nationally esteemed systems modeling expert, and I put our heads together and threw this in and said, is there interest in teaching a version of this that focuses predominantly on the Virginia energy transition? Because the idea here is the legislation passed in 2020. It states a 2050 goal with a pretty rigid RPS. It's had great impact. It really caused Dominion to pivot to the extent where they're now more than 50% through construction of what will be the largest offshore wind farm in the country. But the point we want to get across to students is the goal is one thing, the pathway to getting to the goal is another, and that's where the challenge is, and that's where the complexities are. So we stood up this course in such a way that in the fall, we do a deep dive into energy, and in particular the energy transition. We introduce the technologies that are involved in this, the different sectors that are critical to this. We have them do a deep dive into the legislation and the regulations. Dominion is our largest IOU. They have to dig into their integrated resource plan, which they must submit annually under the auspices of our State Corporation Commission. So that by midway through the fall, and they've also done a deep dive into the literature, they understand, at least at a high level, what the energy transition means, specifically in Virginia, why it is a very complex problem and system to try to model. And they have by that time chosen a particular area they want to focus on. They assemble into teams. We have this semester, we have 9 teams, 8 different topics, and I'll even list them for you. We have a team focused on generation. We have a team on incentives and subsidies, and that was instigated by some feedback we got from our state energy office last year that sat in on our panel that the students presented at. We have a hydrogen team. We have a resilience team. We have a 2 storage teams, a project siting team, an ocean energy team, and a nuclear team. So each team does their best to really focus on their own areas, but we encourage a lot of cross-pollination because, as you all know, you can't really focus in one of those areas and ignore all the others. But to try to capture the whole energy transition is much too much for a team to take on. For that matter, to do a deep dive into nuclear or generation or hydrogen is a pretty tall order. And the students get an awful lot of coaching, both on the energy side and on the modeling side. But by the time we're late into the fall semester, they've done their literature search. They've researched their topic. They have started to be introduced to the systems modeling methodology. By that time, they've defined their problem statement, identified their key variables. They've started to generate what we call behavior over time graphs. Choose those key variables that are pertinent to your topic, and using data that they've gathered from their literature search, start to map what the trends in those variables look like up to present day, and then project what possible scenarios, what we call hopes and fears, looking toward 2050. And we wrap up the fall semester with them creating what we call CLDs, or causal loop diagrams. That is, for collections of variables, their sort of mental mapping of how those variables interact and contribute toward back and forth to each other, and start thinking in terms of loops, causal loops, and how they might be reinforcing or balancing or whatever. And when the students present out at the beginning of December, they've pretty much defined the problem and defined what their spring semester is going to look like. When we move into the spring semester, the first thing that we do with the students, they will have submitted for their final deliverables a 25 to 30 page report, pretty comprehensive report. They would have given a presentation to a panel of experts from government to industry to NGOs, et cetera. They've got a lot of feedback, and over the winter break, my colleague and I, we tear these reports down. We warn them up front. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be full of red ink, and it's all intended to help bring them along and educate them and expose them to where they can maybe improve their modeling so far. And then their first task is to review all of our edits and comments and revise their papers. And that's their starting point in the second semester. But I won't get into all the details. The vast majority of their second semester, and we're in the thick of it now, is creating these models using Stella software that they will then present formally at another panel at the beginning of May during our final exam week. And I'm going to show an example, a presentation from last year and a model, an actual interface, just to give you all a more concrete idea and example of what we do here. Before I do that, I'll take a breath in case you all have any questions.
Hey, Jonathan, I used to use Stella a lot with middle and high school kids. Have you ever done like energy modeling stuff using Stella with like in the high school space? This sounds really cool. I'd be curious how complicated it is, how smart kids have to be to do it. Because I used to use Stella a lot to do like ecosystem modeling, and I used to love the software. It's like some of the most amazingly easy to use modeling software out there. Like, and I always thought like the energy space that had like a cool application, and I just never have ever run it down. But I thought it'd be like, that's really interesting that you're doing that with the kids.
Yeah, I haven't done it at the high school level. We have had some conversations, Rod and I, about that. One thing about these models, and you'll see it in a moment, is they are the modeling process itself is not easy.
Yeah,
and conceptualizing, complex systems and their interactions it's a learning curve. It's a pretty steep one, even for college students. But once a model is built and it's refined and it's validated and it's functional, and you slap onto it a nice clean interface, the model itself is a great teaching tool.
Yeah.
And it's where students can bring it up on a browser, and you'll see this, they can slide, they got the sliders, they can change the variables and see how immediately in real time how it impacts scenarios that are projected. I should have said this up front. At the end of the day, the purpose of this, from the student's perspective, to create these models is to generate this virtual tool where someone can muck around with the variables, slide sliders, and the whole intent of this process is to be able to test policy options virtually and quickly, and get a sense of what decisions, what choices might bear in a better or not as good a way in terms of getting to that 2050 goal.
Yeah.
You said you bring that up, Mike. The other thing, so we're still waiting as the federal freeze seems to be thawing. Virginia Energy is the lead in my shop, our shop, and a shop over at University of Virginia have an application that was awarded by DOE to address siting and permitting challenges in Virginia. This program is called REpS. A bunch of other states were awarded as well. And you know what it's like. You go out to a community and you're trying to deliver a positive message, but I think people at the end of a workday can only sit in an auditorium so long and listen to you preach before they tune you out. And what Ron and I have talked about, because he does this, he is in the systems modeling space all the time, and he said, we can build models that are tailored to the very issues we're trying to address and trying to expose people to. And then rather than just going in cold, you send the model out, let them play with it.
Let them play, yeah. Super fun.
Let them play, and it will elicit questions, and they'll come in and they'll already have in their minds some sense of how these complex systems are and why the transition's so difficult and why if you make that decision, it's going to have an impact over there.
Well, and I think the great thing about it, John, is it shows that nothing is simple here. We all understand that it's hard. And like when you do that, it hopefully leads to better conversations, right?
Exactly. And we keep reinforcing this with the students. It's the easy part is for the governor with a stroke of the pen to say, we're going to be decarbonized by 2050. It is enormously difficult to get to 2050. And just a case in point, I sit on the board of the Virginia Renewable Energy Alliance. One of our committees met last week, and one of the solar developers on the committee, as we were we're grappling with this issue, and we thought we should be hosting an event where we discuss the permitting siting challenges in Virginia. And he reminded us that when Governor Northam signed that into law 4 years ago, at that point in time, everybody's mind was in the same place, that the demand for electricity in Virginia was going to continue to increase very incrementally. And bang, what happened? Data centers. How are we going to build 28 gigawatts in the next 5 to 10 years? And so the gap now between Dominion's projections trying to be compliant with VCEA in reality is growing every day. And those are the kinds of uncertainties and information you just don't anticipate that really boggles the mind and makes the modeling that much more challenging.
You're making me want to dust off my Stella and start thinking about high school lessons, Jonathan. Sadly, what it's doing to me.
I don't know how long it's been, Mike, but the software has really come along. It's pretty.
I have a pretty recent version of it just because I was messing around, and it's like it was one of the greatest tools to use for modeling for like middle and high school kids. I thought it was so visual, but you could add mathematics. It was like, and it was just like dragging and dropping stuff. It was like super amazing.
I can imagine. Can you all see this?
Yes.
I'll just very quickly take you through one of our presentations that our students gave in the fall. So we had a group of 4 students who took on small modular reactors, which has been probably one of the highest energy priorities of our current governor, Governor Youngkin, who's got one more year in office. And so this is sort of the template for the presentations that our students give. Of course, cover sheet. We asked them to present an agenda, and then they give an introduction. So each group talks about the energy plan. We have a mandated quadrennial energy plan that is released the year after each governor comes into office. And Governor Youngkin's plan sort of carries on from Governor Northam's plan in the Clean Economy Act, but he added his own priorities, including small modular reactors and hydrogen and some other things. So the students kind of present the problem. Okay, here's what we're looking at. Here's what the energy plan and the VCEA have to say about small modular reactors. A little bit of explanation for those in our audience who don't know much about SMRs. And then I can't see the whole screen because I got some Zoom stuff on here, but this is their problem statement. We're trying to get them to write a very concise problem statement, maybe 2 sentences, a little background, and here's the issue that we're trying to address. They need to present the variables that they've identified. These are not all the variables, but these are some of the more critical ones, at least within their domain. In their case, they identified some of the leverage points and policies. That's, after all, the end game here is, can we build a model that will enable us to test policies and see how different choices are going to impact our progress toward that 2050 goal? And then they showed here just a few of the pieces from their these systems models, as you know, Mike, can get pretty convoluted and pretty big fast. So we asked them to just pick out a couple of the more dominant loops within their systems model. Here's a reinforcing loop here that demonstrates the process for developing facilities, a balancing feedback loop that addresses here the development and kind of trying to get to that goal of 28%. Another of the balancing feedback loops here that looks at that interaction between licensing and trying to select and secure sites. And then I'll show you the model in a second. But then after they demonstrate the model, they present their conclusions and then get grilled by our audience. And I'll just put it out there. We're always looking for panelists each year to jump in, and the students, they tell us that they go into this scared to death and very nervous, and they tell us after the fact, boy, we learned a lot from that. That was a good process, and glad we did it. And always the panelists are very thoughtful and constructive, and we tell the students up front, they're not coming in here to beat you up. They're coming in here to help you along here and add value to your experience. So I'll show you real quick the interface, because I know we're going to be running short on time here. Let me see if I can get to that window. And come on, where are you? It's out there. Too many
work
windows.
on closing some windows, John.
Yeah. in another life, maybe. Oh, doggone it. Oh, there it is. Okay. So this is what this is what the models look like. Can you all see this?
Yep.
Great. So move that. There it is. Yeah, so this is the nuclear. I'll just start from scratch. So in this case, you can see along here the variables that they have highlighted. It's not all the variables, but key variables that they weren't entirely consistent with how they were presented in the presentation, but close. So how long does it take to complete construction? The systems models are full of stocks and flows, and stocks are, their accumulations and their values associated with them. And some of the values are kind of, they're a little hard to define. What is community awareness? What does 0.01 mean? What does 1 mean? But they have to get used to kind of working in these generalities that aren't quite quantified the way they're accustomed to.
I was just about to ask John, what does one community awareness mean? Everybody knows everything about nuclear.
Well, yeah, you'll see that. In fact, I'll show you right now, Mike. If I go to NIMBY versus sites, and I run the model. So you see here, for instance, this is using their default settings. I'm looking at people who are aware. It may be people who, I don't remember now if it's people who are aware of or people who oppose or support, but you'll see how it's varying. We're looking at people and we're looking at number of sites selected. But if I increase that community awareness, oh yeah, it is that way. So as I go closer to 1, it seems that there are fewer people who are opposing.
Yeah, cool.
And that's the kind of thing, and it will impact the number of sites that they can secure as well. How much time they've got to spend the money. This was a big one, I remember. The permit processing, is it going to be, are we talking about 1 year or are we talking about 6 years before we can get those permits settled? And how's that going to impact, other outputs here, fraction of government subsidies. And so as you go through the different graphs, so for instance, the total number of SMRs, probably, maybe not as much. But certainly what was it? The time to complete construction is going to impact the total SMRs or the rate at which SMRs are deployed. I think the most interesting one, economically, of course, is the break-even point. One of their conclusions was, even in the best case scenario, it's going to be hard, even well beyond 2050, to realize a return on SMRs at this moment, where it's a burgeoning industry. This would be first of a kind. They built in a lot of risk and costs associated with that risk. If I have more time to spend the money, that might have an impact. Boy, if I have more government subsidies, that break-even point gets better and better, but I'm still at 2080. Doesn't look great. The timing to complete construction is going to impact costs and so on. So you guys kind of get the idea here what these models look like, and they're first order models. It's the first time these students are doing this. Rod he's a Stella god. I mean, he knows how to do this stuff and bring the students along to the point where there's no such thing as a perfect models, but we are pretty insistent that they make sense at least. And again, recognizing that the models are only as good as your assumptions, and your assumptions are only as good as what you know today. And we'll see later on. I will add a little footnote here, which we're really proud of. We've had some really good students come through the program. And the first year, one of our students, anybody who spent any time in the classroom knows, every once in a while you get that student come around who he or she just knows what they want. And they're passionate, and this is all they want to work on. We had one of those students 3 years ago, our first year. A young man who was very disciplined and already came in knowing systems modeling well, and this was going to be a senior capstone. And he worked his tail off, and he got hired that summer by our state energy office to do this kind of modeling to help to assist then brand new Governor Youngkin's staff to make their case for SMRs and other such things. And that young man, at the ripe old age of 25 or 6 now, has left the energy office and is one of Governor Youngkin's senior energy and environment advisors. So I think what I take away from that, and some other students who have had success similarly, is just having that inherent understanding of complex systems and the ability to grapple with them in a modeling sense, I think adds a lot of context and value to what the students are learning in a more traditional way. I'm going to stop there. Happy to answer any questions. I will just, as another footnote, I've had a blast with this. I've learned a lot from Rod about modeling. I think he's learned a lot from me about energy. He reminds me every other week, God, John, I'm still mixing megawatts and megawatt hours. I'm going to get this down. And, part of the challenge is he handles the model. The models use units a little differently than we do outside the modeling, and so it's easy to reverse those. But it's been a great mutual experience between us, and as educators, we're always looking for the next thing to kind of keep us excited and enthusiastic, and not get stale.
The thing I love about it, John, even if the models aren't good, is the kids have to learn all the parts, and they have to learn how they all relate. So even if it's not the best model, they really have to dig in and understand it all as they put it together. So as an educational learning process, they get
absolutely
complexity. So that's cool.
Yeah, fun stuff. Remy, that's all I got. Unless you have other questions, happy to answer.
No, I'm going to say I'm not going to get programmer of the year or student of the year or anything like that after listening to that.
Well, when it comes to the program, I am very much a novice on the systems. I didn't mention this when these courses were created. When we launched the spine in these courses, maybe 6-7 years ago, they're always taught with a pair of faculty. That's unusual that we have written right into the course. It is to be taught by a team. And you all know that makes a big difference. And it's hard to squeeze those resources out of an administration and department leadership, but we were insistent on it. We knew this was going to be a tall order. The students get every bit of both of us. And I don't think either of us could teach this course effectively alone. We even lobbied 2 years ago, and we got it. We lobbied that when we launched this, it was you pitched a course and then you committed to it for 3 years. They'd give you one full course credit per section you taught. We're teaching 2 sections the first year, and then they'd only give you half. And we screamed hard back at that, and they did finally relent. And so we get Rod and I each get 2 course credits for teaching 2 sections of this. But yeah, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. But we have very different skill sets, and having them together over 4 years has been really rewarding.
Is he more of a modeling guy then, Jonathan?
Oh yeah, very much so.
Like you're there to kind of teach this, but he's a real modeling guy.
I teach the content, all the energy related stuff. He does all the modeling. We've gotten to the point where we kind of can overlap each other a fair bit now. Yeah, Rod is he does contracts. He only came to JMU about 7-8 years ago, but he's internationally called upon to do this kind of modeling. He has contracts with Rand Corporation. He's worked for Boeing. He's worked for various states on all sorts of topics, health related, drunk driving policy. He's helped states do modeling to help inform their policy choices.
Cool.
To sit down and just watch him is just like, wow.
Yeah.
And, he's got a sixth sense for this stuff.
For those of you guys who have never used Stella, you can download Stella, and they have some interesting courses to train you just to get a taste of it. I highly recommend it. It is very powerful stuff, but it'd be fun to teach it with somebody who knew what the heck they were doing. Mostly I was just I knew the content, but not anything about modeling. And it was always I don't know, I'm making this up.
Yeah. Oh, Mike, you should have a session with Rod sometime. You'd probably really enjoy it. He's really good.
It's just knowing how to teach people about how to build models, I think is a whole probably amazing skill set to how do you teach kids about making and building models is really interesting to me.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you this: you hold hands a lot. Yeah, this is not something. I'll be perfectly honest. Other people who teach this course who don't have Rod's skill set, they don't get into the modeling with their students the way we do. I couldn't do it. I couldn't come close. But I got lucky that I got paired with Rod and have had the opportunity to learn from him and watch how he brings students along through the process. But it's the kind of deal where, I'm not joking, we've got 9 teams. He sits down with each team for an hour.
Wow.
And I join when I can outside of class every week at this point in the semester. So he gives an awful lot of overtime support to help those kids get to the point that you just saw. I'm going to sign off because I got 15 minutes to drive across town and meet you over there, Remy.
Okay. Well, thank you, John. This was really helpful. Just know this was recorded and we will be able to share it with any other faculty that were not able to make the call. So hopefully, I'll make sure to put your email in there so they know how to get in touch with you if they have questions.
Please do. And I'm happy to share our syllabi or any other materials or put anybody in touch with Rod if they'd like.
Awesome. Thank you, John.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Awesome. So with that, guys, Doug, you kind of gave us an update on what's going on your end with the purchasing hiccups that you're having, but do you have anything else that you want to chat about,
Yeah.
Mike and Yvonne too?
I think mine is pretty simple. We're just buying some solar kits and teaching solar. I'm not going to have any models.
I don't think that's simple. You heard us talking before, John got here about teaching solar isn't as easy as it sounds,
Yeah. Like I said, that was amazing. Mine will be nothing like that.
Well, and with the WeShare solar kits, even the new ones that they have, just know that the stuff that Kidwind has, and Mike and Yvonne can talk about, their website has a lot of material. Those introductory lessons, just teaching about how DC electricity works and how solar panels work, are great lead-ins to the big build of the solar learning box or whatever they're calling the new thing.
Okay.
So,
do you have any links to that or anything that you can send me?
I'm sure Mike and Yvonne looks like she's about to put them in the chat. I can see it in her eyes.
Okay.
But yeah, and both of them are great resources, and I'm happy to chat with you too, for, where to purchase panels from, or, little DC motors and, things little manipulatives that kind of lead into the bigger project.
Okay.
Yeah, the Solar Schoolhouse is a great place too. Kidwin obviously has great stuff, and I know that Mike has worked with tour over at Solar Schoolhouse. They've got a lot of great little manipulatives there too, and I think they partner with the Solar Suitcase people. Still a little solar happy family. So so if you need anything, just reach out. Happy to help. And like I said, if you just drop me an email, let me know when, if you just want to move the end of your project date to the end of the school, the calendar year or something, just let me know.
Okay.
Or even next year.
I'm going to say more than likely I'll need to, because from my understanding is September's even pushing if we'd get them by then or not.
Yeah, that's a bummer. But
are they changing the kits, Remy? What are they doing to the kids?
yeah, well, per the feedback, I guess they realized that the Solar Suitcase is too expensive.
I told them that like 5 years ago, Remy, but hey, they finally getting a hit, maybe.
They're coming out with I don't even know what it's called. I tested it like over a year ago, so I don't know what it's like looks like now, but it comes in a cardboard box.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
it still
think it's
has like a chassis that you build, and it's got like the circuitry written on it, that you can follow for the wiring. And it's very similar to the Solar Suitcase, but it's just not in that hefty box, and it is not deployed. So it's literally just a learning kit. You can still deploy, from what I understand, a Solar Suitcase to a school in a refugee camp, but you don't get to build it anymore because the QC,
Sure.
thing, it was more work than it was worth, I think, is what that came down
I
to.
am
I'm
sure
sure ANN would.
Yeah,
give you-
I'm sure it was like pretty challenging.
Yeah, so that was the good thing, is the price did go down because we can get 10 kits for 6,000 instead of the 6 kits for 1,000 apiece. So we do.
Oh, yeah. That is good to hear. That's it's still expensive, but definitely is more economical. And then, Mike, I don't know, how are things coming with the solar lantern or lighting project that you guys are working on?
We have 2, and they're progressing pretty well. I think at NSTA, Pam's going to share the lesson, and then we have a bunch of materials and a new board. We basically designed a new circuit board that allows kids to sort of attach panels and storage and lights and do all kinds of like experimentation about like different kinds of storage, different types of solar panels, and different kind of things. And then like it can be embedded in the lantern, but it can be embedded like in a solar house or any object at all. It's designed, and it could take wind in and charge a battery or all kinds of stuff. So it's like very multi-purpose.
Cool.
Yeah,
And,
it's pretty cheap too. I think it's not going to be that expensive, so it's kind of neat too.
That is cool. Are you working with the gentleman in North Carolina anymore? Is that what was his name?
I am not working. Well, he might be involved. Pam has a whole universe of people giving her advice about. We have like 10 prototypes of the boards out, and everybody's got their own like, I don't like this, I don't like that, and they're like all like messing around. We're on like version 4. At some point, I have to send a few to you, Remy, to play with. They're pretty interesting. Like, I need to get you the next prototype so you can like tell me what you think. Be like, everybody's got 100 opinions. I'm like, guys, we got to keep it under $5. Like, come on, like, quit adding things.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, any other things, Mike, that you and Yvonne want to share from the Kidwin side of things? I mean, we've got a tiny little audience here, but it's recorded. So if you got anything, I'm happy to throw it out there.
Not too much. I'm curious, where was the gentleman who's on here with us here still from? Where are you located? I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name either.
That's Doug. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Doug, where are you from?
Oh, sorry. League of Land Community College is in Springfield, Illinois.
Springfield, Illinois. Oh, okay, cool. We do quite a bit of work in Central Illinois, and we're working to move stuff into Northern Illinois. But we mostly focus on like K-12 education around solar and things like that. And if you ever want to like it, I would say this. What is it? The solar for all stuff, or that stuff. It's a little like I love it. It's a little expensive. Yvonne could share with you lots of like I would call simpler and more crafty level solar projects that can help to like other things you can do too. We tend to infuse a lot of art and solar together, so it depends. It's like a little more like kind of open-ended crafty stuff, and might be better for a younger kid. So if you want to like kind of check that out, and we've done some solar 101 workshops. You sound like you're a pretty smart technical guy, but if you need any like stuff, how we teach solar to kids, we could share old videos.
No, that would be great, because we are looking at doing some summer camps. And,
we have a lot of ideas around that. Yeah,
well,
and Remy's
Doug,
done
if you
camps.
need help,
Yeah,
I've done a solar summer camp around the Solar Suitcases. I could send you my outline. I mean, it's just
that'd
a
be
lot.
great.
I need to Remy, I need to you and Kathy in a room to write the renewable energy summer camp book And like you two could publish it and become rich. Maybe you and Kathy can get rich because everybody's asking me like, I don't do camps. I don't do camps. Call Kathy, call
Yeah.
Remy. I don't
Well,
do camps. I don't
we
do
don't
camps.
need a book. We need modules that require training, and then you train counselors, and it just becomes part of your training protocol.
Anytime you want to start that, Remy,
Yep.
I hope we add you to the team and we're going to put you on that project right away. Right
No
away.
worries. And then, Doug, the only other thing I wanted to mention is that you came up the other day while we were at the Soul Systems headquarters, and I
Yeah.
feel like you guys have been working with Soul Systems on some cool solar things, and I just wanted to close the loop on those guys. They do great work, and they were so excited to be working with you, and happy to hear that we were working with you too.
Yeah.
What do you do with Soul Systems, Doug?
Well, I mean, all in all, it's really just taking tours and stuff.
Cool.
They're the ones that
Do they have a solar facility near you, kind of, or
yes, they have one. It's about 40 minutes away.
Cool.
We've toured that. Probably looking at doing that again here soon.
Yeah, they're really great.
You should put that in your summer camp. So this is, that's part of it. So Mike, the other thing, if I come in, I've got lots of ideas. And one of the things is that we need to like have this, field trips is a thing. Like
Remy,
scheduling and helping to plan field trips for people because we got the connections.
The projects are tall and deep. Just get your board to say go, and then we'll all go. That's the
I
plan.
haven't heard anything. It's been radio silence today.
Oh yeah,
So.
I'm sure we lobbed a bomb in the middle of the room. Let's see what happens. Like, let's go.
It'll be great. It'll be great.
I will say in the chat, I posted the link to the activities page of the KidWind website. So keep an eye on that because I know as some of the Windwise curriculum in that is finalized, that's supposed to be posted there, I believe, so that you can easily find each lesson plan. But right now it just has all of the base activities that there was like an activity guide write-up and a lesson plan based around. So.
Megan's tilting at windmills, always making the curriculum better. Like she just literally, I feel like she just climbs uphill. She's like Sisyphus, just carrying rocks uphill her whole life, trying to fix that stuff. Like, I don't know what she's doing. Cool. Well, very nice to meet you, Doug. We do a lot of work in Illinois. I will have to get your contact. And, if we ever do something like training in person or stuff like that, we'll reach out and make sure if you want to come and hang out, we'll share that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah. And we'll talk more, Doug. I know that with the timeline of when you're going to be able to purchase your equipment, you may not have much to report on your project. But if you have students that would like to come out to ACES, maybe it doesn't have to be around the project. Any sort of solar research or solar things that you guys are doing in the classroom that they want to present about on a poster, we'd love to have them. And they don't have to present; they could just come. So we're happy to extend that offer to them, or they can wait and try to come to a different conference in 26.
Okay, sounds good.
So something to think about. But we're happy to get you there. Well, thank you guys. 7 minutes back. And I will send an email, like I said, with all the links to all of the things that Repowering Schools kind of announced and updated you on, and I'll make sure to share the link that Yvonne put in the chat as well. So
excellent. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day.
All right, appreciate it.
Everyone.
Bye.
Bye.